Ready to go? Okay, let's get started. Thank y'all for being here today. We appreciate your attendance very much. We're here today because we are unveiling today our Pulling Back the Curtain on PBMs campaign. Now, for those of you who don't know what a PBM is, it stands for Pharmacy Benefit Manager. You know, one of the things that I pledged to do when I became a member of Congress was learn at least 10% of the acronyms in the federal government. And the acronyms are important, but this is one that everyone needs to know. And one of the things I'm proud of is in the 8 years that I've been a member of Congress, that finally members of Congress know what a PBM means. They know what this acronym means because we've educated them. We're calling this Pulling Back the Curtain on PBMs because, as many of you remember, The Wizard of Oz, when they pulled back the curtain on the wizard, they realized that it was nothing more than a bad actor. Same thing here. PBMs are the middlemen. They are the ones that are profiting off of the high price of prescription medications. You know, there was a study done earlier this year by the Berkeley Research Group that showed that 37%, only 37% of the price of a medication went to the pharmaceutical manufacturer, which begs the question, where does the other 63% go? The answer, right here, PBMs, the middleman. And the problem that has evolved over time is, and you'll hear from some of our other speakers, and I'm only going to talk for a minute because I want you to hear from them. They're the ones who can tell you the story. I've been hollering at the top of my lungs for the last 8 years about this, and people have heard it, but I want you to hear from them as well. What are the high drug prices causing? All of you know. Listen, I was on the other side of the counter for over 40 years. I was the one who had to watch the senior citizens make a decision between buying medication and buying groceries. I was the one who had to tell the mother how much the antibiotic was and watch her in tears try to get the money to pay for that antibiotic. That's why I set out as one of my priorities to lower prescription drug costs, and that's what we're going to do here. Because PBMs, the middleman, they are causing higher drug prices, which is causing affordability. The other thing is accessibility. They're limiting the number of drugs that patients are able to get. There was a study that just came out last week that showed that patients can't get over 1,150 drugs because they are not on their formulary. The PBM is the one who decides what's going to be on that formulary. And it's because of the vertical integration that exists. When I say vertical integration, what I mean is that you've got the insurance company that owns the PBM, that owns the pharmacy. And the problem with PBMs, 3 PBMs control 80% of the market. Thank goodness the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is finally looking at this, and they're studying it to see the impact that it's having on independent pharmacies and on patients. And we know the impact that it's having, and you're going to hear the stories today from some of our speakers on the impact that it's having on them. What we're trying to achieve in healthcare is accessibility, affordability, and quality. Those are the things that we always aim for. PBMs are hurting accessibility, they're hurting affordability, and they're hurting the quality of healthcare. We've got a number of guests here today. I want to start out by recognizing our first guest. Hold on just a second. Her name is Terry Wilcox, and she is the founder and CEO of Patients Rising. Terry, thank you for being here. We look forward to hearing from you and telling us about the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Congressman Carter. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and for all the work that you're doing on the PBM issue, which we like to call it at Patients Rising. Now, at Patients Rising now, we advocate for access to quality health care that's affordable for patients and also transparent. Now, this report that's launched today by Congressman Buddy Carter is something that patients we talk to every day, every single day, have been waiting for. It represents an architecture for tangible reforms that patients, where they're really suffering, at the pharmacy counter. It's a tangible reform that they can use at the pharmacy counter, because all the patients that we talk to all the time, that is where they're hurting the most. And patients really aren't interested in bumper sticker slogans about drug prices being too high, and if they don't work, people can't afford them. Well, they also don't work if people can't access them. And the greatest barrier to that access is what we're talking about here today, which is pharmacy benefit managers and insurers vertical integration, which are now often one and the same. Now, the healthcare system has this dirty little secret. It is a multi-billion-dollar middleman that drains the system and does not give back. They, not the pharmaceutical companies, set the prices for what patients pay at the pharmacy counter and determine that access, which is why it is so important when we're talking about drug prices being too high. Yes, the pharmaceutical industry has a role in that, but if we're not going to be dealing with exactly what's also happening at the pharmacy counter, then we're not solving the problems for patients across America who really need our help. They'll never have a truly lower cost until there is a truly transparent process. Look, the original purpose of the PBM industry was, altruistic. They were supposed to negotiate lower prices for patients, but that's not what they're doing. They're negotiating lower prices for themselves. They're negotiating better deals from themselves and sending the bill to patients. So patients that you're going to hear from here today, like Alyssa and Jess and millions of others, you're going to learn about the stories that are really happening at the pharmacy counter. And I have one of my very own, actually, just recently. I went to the pharmacy counter. I had to pick up eardrops for my son. They said, that'll be $210. I said, wow, it's never been that high before. And I looked on GoodRx and it said $80.37 or whatever it was. And I was like, well, I want this price. And they said, well, you can't have that price because then it won't count towards your deductible. It won't count towards your insurance. I was like, why would I want to pay 2.5 times more for something just so that it can count towards my deductible? I want this price. So I ended up paying that price, but that's the shenanigans you go through. Sometimes it's not even just the price, it's the whole shenanigan of the system. Patients spend days doing paperwork, which you'll hear about today, just trying to get the care that they need. So patients like Elisa and Jess and the doctors and pharmacists that you'll hear from today, everyone is saying game over. It's time to deal with the supply chain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry, and thank you for the work that you're doing. With Patients Rising, those are the kind of advocacy groups that we need, and I appreciate you very much. Next, we're going to hear from Jessica Walford. Jessica is a patient, she's a registered nurse, and she's an activist too, so she knows what she's talking about.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, of course, foremost to Congressman Carter and his wonderful staff for having us all here today to listen to our stories. So I am a nurse. I've had Crohn's disease for 15 years. There's no cure for Crohn's disease, and due to the severity of my disease, I do require these medications you hear of on TV, the Stellaras, the Humiras, Remicades, those things you hear on TV. I do require those medications, and they are approved by my insurance, but just because they're approved does not mean they are covered. So I do one injection of Stellara every month to help keep me out of the hospital. This injection is 1 milliliter, which is about the size of an adult thumbnail, and that is $24,900. My insurance company is wonderful enough that they will pay $17,000 of this, leaving the rest of the $7,000 to me to figure out how I'm going to pay for it. I am enrolled currently in 2 copay assistant programs. I'm enrolled in the second one because I maxed out of the first one in March of this year. So they do not give you a lot of spending money, unfortunately. So one of the things that patients with chronic and rare diseases have to deal with, we have to deal with a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress between what's covered by our insurance. Does our physician know what the next step is? Do we know what the next step is? And the problem with these kind of medications being that they're authorized by your insurance will only authorize this through one particular specialty pharmacy. You cannot shop these medications. You cannot go online, unfortunately, and find better prices. So the prices that we're offered are really it, and it's just something that we have to deal with, which is extremely unfortunate. And stress is not good for anybody, but especially people with chronic illnesses. It's just something that we try to eliminate, and I'm very, very thankful for people like Congressman Carter and for Patients Rising for giving us a voice and the advocates a voice to share our stories. Luckily, I work with a wonderful and responsive GI office, and being a registered nurse myself, I've been on the end of telling patients that their medication is not authorized. Their medication is going to cost them thousands of dollars out of pocket. We've had to switch patients' medications because although it's approved by the prior authorization, it's not completely covered by their pharmacy benefits. So I've been on both the giving and the receiving end on news like that, and it's really hard for anybody, especially chronic illness patients. We have enough that we have to worry about with our care and medications. Where we're getting our medications from and the cost of them should really not be one of them, and I'm really glad that this initiative has brought that to light, and I'm hoping that we can get more of a price breakdown. If my insurance company's paying for $17,000, then where's the rest of the money going? If I need two copay assistance programs, maybe my medication doesn't need to be almost $25,000 every month. So I'm really glad that this initiative has been put into place, and it's something that we can dive deeper into to try to figure out the answers to these questions. Thank you, Congressman Ian, for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Jensen. Okay, next we're going to hear from Elisa Comer. Elisa is a patient, she's a small business owner, and she's an activist. We need more.
Thank you, Congressman. Hello, my name is Elisa Comer, and I live with rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's disease, and dysautonomia. And just a quick word about what dysautonomia even is. It's a disorder whereby your pulse and your blood pressure can fall really, really low. So I've already told my friends over here, if I hit the ground, they're just gonna pick me up and dust me off, and I'll go ahead with the story. Many, many years ago, I had to get a pacemaker. My pulse was 19 when I got my pacemaker. That is not an inexpensive surgery. Fast forward a few years, and I began biologic medicines like Humira, Enbrel, those other kinds of medications that are very, very expensive. And I ran into what I've now learned is pharmacy benefit managers. And gone are the days, seemingly so, of being able to go see your doctor. You're able to do what the doctor tells you to do and take the medications that your doctor tells you to take, or the physical therapy and other lifestyle adjustments. And Congressman, I think for the first time today, in over 7 years of a really, really hard journey, I am hopeful that we can get the invisible physician, the PBM, out of my exam room, and we can once again return decisions about my health care to my doctors, my therapist, and my family. It is past time. Delays cost us mobility. Delays cause small businesses to miss work days for their employees. The financial burden upon small businesses to have to hire people just to handle the PBMs. That should not be the case. There should never be a case where a pharmacist or physician has to tell a mother that she can't tap into the medication for their child with juvenile arthritis. And so this child goes back into a wheelchair for the next year and a half. These are true stories. One year we fought so hard and so long with pharmacy benefit managers and their funny money and monkey math protocols that I finally had to stop my medication. We couldn't float the money anymore. Well, you'll get your money back by the end of the year. And a surgery for one of our sons was delayed by about 6 months. It was an ear surgery. By the time we were finally able to get him to surgery, the inner bones in his ear had disintegrated. And they had to reconstruct his ear, and he has prosthetics in his ear now and has a 30% permanent hearing loss. That could possibly have been prevented if we could just do what the doctor wanted us to do. And here's an unintended consequence. My son was denied serving in our American U.S. Air Force because he has prosthetics in his ears now, and that cost him his military time. It is past time to rope this in. And I'm so thankful for you and for Patients Rising, giving us an opportunity to tell our stories. And I have a message for you PBMs out there. We're on to you and we're coming for you. And we will not rest. These are hills that we are willing to die on. And we're tired of you hijacking our health care. Americans know all about this hijack thing, and we're sick of it. And you're not going to do it anymore. And a word for my chronic illness family: you stay the course, you stay in there and fight. Let's roll. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, thank you, Elisa. Wow. Okay, let's hear from a pharmacist, somebody who experiences this every day like I did for 40 years. Dr. Ben Ross. And thank you for being here.
As Representative Carter said, my name is Ben Ross. I'm a second-generation independent local community pharmacist. I grew up in Sylvania, Georgia. I was born and raised in my dad's pharmacy, Ross Drug, and I currently own and operate Forest Heights Pharmacy in Statesboro, Georgia. I'm also a current board member of the Georgia Pharmacy Association. So at first, I just have to tell you, I am so excited to be here. I have waited for this day a long time for the leadership to step up against the PBMs, and here we are. So I'd like to start off by saying thank you, Representative Carter. Thank you for your team. Unfortunately, as a community pharmacist, I see it every day, and I'm not alone. Across the country, we see this played out where patients come to our pharmacies. They bring a prescription that their doctor wants them to be on, that they need to be on, only to be told that it requires a prior authorization or it's not covered. So we're delaying care. We're letting a pharmacy benefit manager play doctor. Another scenario we see on a daily basis is patients that have used a local pharmacy for years. They build a relationship with the pharmacy. They love their pharmacist. They trust their pharmacist. To be told that they're no longer going to be allowed to get their medications at their pharmacy. They're going to need to transfer to another pharmacy or to the mail order pharmacy that the pharmacy benefit manager just happens to own. That's wrong. We see that because of these abusive practices that local community pharmacies are closing. In my community alone, we've had 2 pharmacies closed in the past 2 years. One that was around since 1960, one from the early 70s. These pharmacies, due to these abusive practices, are gone forever, and our communities suffer from it. Currently, we're facing issues with TRICARE, and the pharmacy benefit manager that takes care of TRICARE has decided to send out patients across the country letters as of last month saying that thousands of local community pharmacies would be excluded from the network, that they would need to go mail order or find a new pharmacy, my pharmacy included. My patients who have been with me for years were told go somewhere else or go to the mail order pharmacy that we own. Again, this is wrong, and as like I said, I am on the Georgia Pharmacy Association board, and we have a petition, and we're asking everybody to sign that so that they will open up this network to these community pharmacies. But it's going to take more than just a petition. It's going to take actions from Representative Buddy Carter and his team. You know, we need them, and we are just so excited that he's stepped up to the plate, that he's being a champion for our profession and our communities. So I'll leave you with this. If you care about health care, if you care about patient access, if you care that patients get the medications they need in a timely manner, if you care about your community, you will support these efforts that Representative Carter is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we have Dr. Nakonis. Thank you for being here. And she can tell you, I'm sure, firsthand about the experiences of being a physician and trying to get the patient medications that she knows they need.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Nakondas Gamble. I'm an optometrist. I practice in Pembroke, Georgia, where I provide medical and general eye care to patients. And so I'm definitely honored to be here today to participate in this awareness program. I come from a different perspective in that I am a provider. One thing that I know and that I notice is that it's been far too long for these middlemen, these PBMs. Now, like I said, I'm coming from a different perspective, but the PBMs are affecting how we practice and provide health care. The issue that arises is that whenever patients come in and they need health care, we have to, we're dictated or told what we have to do in order to provide that care. What I'm excited about in this initiative is that with Buddy Carter's team, they're going to be working to preserve and protect the doctor-patient relationship. That is something that's near and dear to me. No one can come in and tell me the best thing for my patients. The best thing for my patients is to have that integrity of that care. For me to say, you need this pair of glasses or you need this medication in order to make your eyes feel better or to perform at a certain level. In order to maintain that integrity, we need the middleman to stop interfering. As an eye doctor, one thing that I can tell you, and we have a common ground in that the PBMs are affecting the pharmacy. In the eye care industry, vision plans, their vertical integration has started to follow the model of the PBMs in that they dictate what glasses a patient can receive. They dictate how we provide care to patients. And our goal is to maintain that doctor-patient relationship. It is the core of healthcare in the United States. And I feel like right now we're at a crossroads. We're at a point that if we do not step in and tell these big conglomerates, no more interfering, no more sitting behind a computer screen telling us how we provide care to patients, what kind of care a patient can receive, we're not going to be able to move forward. We have to start looking at how we come together and fight as a team to take down the PBMs. Today, it's the pharmacies. Today, it's optometry. What profession is going to be next on the block of these big companies telling us how we need to handle our patients? So again, I'm excited about where we are on the precipice of this change that Buddy Carter and his team is putting together. We can make a difference, not just for eye care, not just for medical care, but for healthcare in general. We need to continue to work to make certain that at the center of the healthcare that we are providing, it's patients. One of the stories that I heard this afternoon from one of the attendees today is that her eye doctor was the one that helped to change her outcome. And it wasn't just because it was an eye doctor, it was because that eye doctor saw a need and pressed forward. We all have to come together, press forward, and help to move this initiative along. Vertical integration is out. Patient-centered care is needed, and this initiative is going to pull back the curtain on the things that are happening behind the scene to help that happen. And so, Congressman Carter, I really appreciate being here today, and I appreciate what you're doing to stop these challenges from moving forward.
Great, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Okay, there you hear it. We are pulling back the curtain, and we want transparency. We want these rebates that these middlemen are getting to go to the patient. Give them to them right here at the patient counter. Don't let the third parties pocket the profits. That's what's causing insurance, that's what's causing prescription pricing to go up so much. I want to thank everyone for being here. You're true patriots for doing this, and I mean that sincerely. Thank you. I want you to know that you can go to our website, buddycarter.house.gov, and you can find all about PBM abuses. Now is the time. Now is the time for us to pull back the curtains, to have transparency in drug pricing, and we're doing that. I told you before, and I want to finish with this. Two things that need to happen. First of all, PBM should not be able to own pharmacies steering their patients. What they're doing is they're steering their patients to their pharmacies, steering them away from independent pharmacies and retail pharmacies and going to their pharmacies. And what that is causing is a decrease in accessibility. Again, pharmacists are the most accessible healthcare professionals in America. 95%